how to write CSS, what are the best practice, and what are the different ways you can write CSS in OutSystems. This session is all about JavaScript. So what are the best practice of JavaScript, how to write JavaScript in OutSystems and all about it, right? Then we're going to continue this session for two more sessions where we're going to create a live application within the session, so you guys can also work on the application, right? So it will give you a say hands-on idea, or it will give you a real life idea how to create a proper application from scratch with front end. So that will be later sessions which we're going to do. Okay, so make sure to check out for those sessions. So let me introduce myself. My name is Shubham Sharma and I am a senior trainer in Zebia. So I take mostly external boot camps related to different topics of our systems. So I take trainings. Apart from that, I've also helped my team in different POCs and projects. Today, we have a very special, I'll definitely say very special guest and as a speaker, because Kriti is very well known for front end in our systems. So Kriti has around 10 years of experience in technical, but she has a wide range of 6+ years of what we can say experience in OutSystems in low code. So I guess she started her journey with Netlinks as me and Neha also started, and she also used to take training, so she was part of our team. Then later, she moved to become a solution architect in our company, where she used to do pre-sales work and create POCs for different clients. Then later, she joined, like in previous years, she joined OutSystems, where she was like partner success manager for OutSystems for over a year. And then now she is giving her expertise to Vision Forge as a principal consultant. So as I said, she has a wide range of experience, and front end, I'll say she's very good with front end. That is why we have picked her. Like when we started this session, we know that we have to have Kriti with us for this session. And apart from development and all this, she loves traveling and do all this stuff. So welcome, Kriti. Thank you for accepting our invitation to join this session, and all over to you.
Thank you, Shubham. Thanks, Neha. That was wow. Thank you so much. I'm not sure how much of that actually applies, but I will take all of that. Thank you. All right, everyone. Good morning. Good evening. I'm not sure if everyone is joining from the same time zone. Do we have people from other time zones as well, apart from India? IST? Anyone? Yeah. Oh, all right. Hi. Hey, Bruno. Okay, so wow, it must be really pretty late there in Portugal, I understand. For everyone else, it is still morning. Okay, so all right, welcome to this session, everyone. I'm not sure how everyone does this on a Saturday. It takes a certain level of commitment, so congratulations. And like Shubham has already introduced me, so I'm not gonna spend a lot of time there. I can see someone had raised their hand. Uh, Tangam. Not sure if I'm saying it right. I can see you have raised your hand. All right. Okay. Cool then. So we're gonna talk about 6:41 a.m. Okay. All right. So we're gonna talk about JavaScript, especially in our systems. So I hope that you have at least heard about JavaScript or know a little bit about how it works. So JavaScript, how I like to think of it is if uh, if HTML is noun, then CSS is adjective, and JavaScript is the verb part of it. Right? It decides what happens when we click on a button. Right? Does it navigate to a new page? Does it open a form, like what exactly happens when we click on that button. So in our systems, we can already configure that without needing a lot of knowledge of JavaScript. But because reactive applications working the way they work, JavaScript gives us a lot more flexibility in terms of how we control these applications. Okay, so I'm gonna quickly share my screen. How do I share my screen? I'm gonna try and figure
You
this out.
must get an option down.
Ah, yeah, I can see the button here.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, I hope everyone can see my screen okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, JavaScript and OutSystems, this is briefly what we're going to cover. How exactly can we define JavaScript code within OutSystems IDE, that is Service Studio? How do JavaScript APIs work in OutSystems? We'll discuss a little bit about asynchronous calls, how exactly that works, and some of the best practices related to custom JavaScript code, and the order in which these JavaScript files would load if we so choose to add it within our code. Starting with defining JavaScript. All right, so here JavaScript can be defined with the help of either the JavaScript element within our client actions itself, or we can define JavaScript within as a library. Let's say we're importing a library. We can also create an entire script within the script folder right here, as you can see. All right, now um, I want to check how many of us have used or at least noticed this tool before, this JavaScript element before. All right. Okay, cool. All right. So there are people. Oh, there are people. Nice. It's so good to see everyone. At least people. Some people I've worked with. Some people I know from before. All right. So we have seen this. Now, where am I? I'm a little lost. I haven't had my coffee. Now, talking about JavaScript. Yes, there someone saying something. Okay. Talking about JavaScript element itself, so you can see it can be used within the client action flows. All right, and we can also use input and output parameters within this. And the way that this element works is these input and output elements would be specific to this particular JavaScript element itself. Like the input that I provide to it, or the output that I get from it, would be a specific, would be um, limited. The scope would be limited to this particular JavaScript element itself. What do I mean by it? I'll shortly show you that as well. Now, this element here, as you can guess, is simply a JavaScript editor, and it has a built-in validator as well. And let's say if there's some mistake that we make, there is some syntax error, there's some code that does not make sense to the JavaScript editor, then it will point it out and highlight it for us. And we can also pass input and output parameters. Now, for example, let's say I want to provide an ID. As you can see the example here, I want to provide an ID to this particular JavaScript code. So I cannot do it, from an input parameter that I would create within the action. It has to be created as a part of this JavaScript element itself. Okay, we'll see shortly how that works as well. Now, um, scripts. Right, so I said that we can either add JavaScript code within the element, or we can also use scripts. And these scripts can be used in different blocks, in different scopes, not blocks but scopes. So it can either be used, I can either write an entire JavaScript code at the module level, and this will then apply to the entire module. All right. So every screen that is present within this module would be able to use the JavaScript code. So this is more of a universally apply to entire module, right? Or we can go ahead and also write it specific to a screen under the required script part of a screen, one of the properties, or within the block, right? So how exactly does it work? So each of these elements, right, either modules or screens or a block, have this property called required script, and we can add more than one script depending on the requirement. And once this is done, we just have to call this code in the context of wherever it is required. Okay, we'll see that as well shortly. All right. Now, uh, we can also, JavaScript APIs are also available. We can tweak and customize the experience as per requirement. For example, let's say we want to close a feedback message, right? So this API here for closing the feedback message can be accessed through this object called public. And now some of these APIs could possibly also cause some security issues. Now, let's say if we have to check if a user has a certain role, right? So we can go ahead and use this public object, and we can also, more or less how we do it when we check a role within our system's code, right? It will return a boolean value, true or false. So this is how we can use JavaScript APIs. Now, before I go further in, let me actually go back to the editor. Um, okay, just give me a second. Just 1 second, everyone. I, okay. All right. So I hope you can see my screen that is open on Service Studio. Now, what I want to do is, okay, I have a few screens created here already. Let me just move to this screen right here. Okay. Um, all right. Now I have a question. Let's say I want to perform some DOM manipulation is the word. So I want to perform some DOM manipulation on this particular screen, request creation screen. What would be the process for it? Or better yet, I know there's something called screen events. Which screen event would be the ideal event to do this?
On ready.
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I missed it.
On ready. On ready.
On ready, yes, that is correct. So I'm going to go ahead and create an on ready event. All right. Um, okay. Um, just give me a second. Just give me a second, guys. It's a little bit of challenge here. My computer is not cooperating. I think it realizes that it's a Saturday. Okay, so what I want here, all right, is I want when I enter this screen, I want the focus to be on this input, let's say. Okay, let's see which. this input right here. All right. So for that, I'm going to write a quick JavaScript code, and we'll see how exactly that word works on ready. Let me just add this here, JavaScript element. I'm going to call it focus on input. Okay. Um, all right. Now I want, come on, man. I want an input parameter here, okay, which would be the ID of the input, and I'm going to pass to it. And it will be of type text, mandatory, yes. All right. Now, before I do anything else, I want to go back and look at the ID itself. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Let's go back here. So I'm gonna write a quick code, if you remember, for DOM manipulation. That would be document to access the document object dot get element by id, and I'm going to pass the id, and this id would in fact be, because like I said, the scope of this editor is limited to this editor itself, so I cannot pass the name of the id, I cannot pass the id of this input, as I can see here. Okay. And in fact is one of the best practices to not use this id of the element. One of the reasons is, as we'll see, why it's one of the best practices, because this name is generated dynamically. Sorry, the ID is generated dynamically by OutSystems once it renders the screen. Okay, so and it changes with context. So it's not a good idea to use the ID name as it is, and also because we cannot pass it to the scope of the JavaScript element. All right. Now, so how else do we do it? Do it with the help of this input parameter. All right. So I'm just gonna add it as my input parameter, like the parameter itself. And what is this? This is the parameter. This is the global object that I talked about. Every parameter input or output would be defined under this global object. Okay. Now, the method that I'm going to call here is focus with parentheses, otherwise it won't work. And that's it. This is my quick one line of code. Now, okay, so I can see some error here. Can someone tell me why this is? If I go to, it says valid expression must be set for input ID. What is that? What does that mean? Any
Please
guess?
pass the input ID.
We need to pass widget ID.
All right. And do you remember which one it was? I think it's this. I'll go back and check again. Yeah, this is it. All right. So now that my code is ready, um, all right. Let's go ahead and publish it. So now make sure that it's okay. Okay, I'm gonna open this in the browser. I'm a little out of touch, everyone, because I haven't been much of a trainer, I'm afraid. So please bear with me, and I really appreciate it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and add a request. And as you can see, all right, we'll do this. As you can see, the focus right now is on this input as I wanted it to be. All right, so that was a quick demo of how exactly this JavaScript element works, how we can add input parameters to it, and why we should pass input parameters to it, and why we shouldn't use the IDs of the elements as it is. Okay, now I want to go back to the presentation. Now, um, so we can also use asynchronous calls within our systems. All right. And in fact, JavaScript calls by default would be synchronous, but we can make it asynchronous. For example, we can use reject and resolve methods and functions. Now, when we use JavaScript node or the element, it will be defined in the way that the order in which we define the JavaScript element is the order in which it will in fact execute within the code as well. Okay, but we can make it asynchronous with the help of resolve and reject function. I'm not going to go too much into these functions, uh, but actually, wait, let me. So we have a quick documentation on this as well. If you want, we can I can share the link with you as well. So to define asynchronous, we have these predefined functions resolve and reject, and it is very similar to the ones that we use in regular JavaScript code, resolve and reject. Let's say when we are integrating an API within our code, right? This helps us uh, uh, have a better control over the result of the API, right? How exactly it will be rendered, the result, how it will be rendered on the screen. Um, Now, before I move on, let me also quickly show you another function. All right. Mm, Give me a second. All right. Okay. Now, I said that we can define JavaScript in two ways, right? So I can either go ahead and write it within the client action, or we can call it with the help of a script that I would add within the script folder here. Okay, so I have a function defined here, okay, which does again the same thing. It just sets the focus on an input. So I'm going to go ahead and use this function. I'm going to call this function within the scope of my screen. All right.
Katie, actually, you have not shared your screen, I think.
Oh, yes. Thank you so much. All right. I'm sharing it now. Okay. So here is my function. It is pretty straightforward. My function is called setFocus, and this is my argument or the parameter. This is again the input ID that I'm gonna pass into that function as pass into that, yeah, as an argument, pass into that function. All right. Again, this piece of code is similar to what we have used previously. Now, this script is I've sort of let's treat this as a library that I've imported within my OutSystems application, which I've defined under script. How do we do it? Just right click. We either import a script that already exists in the JS file, or we can write a custom script as well. All right. So this is what this one is. Okay, now I'm going to use this script in my client action here. I'm just going to go ahead and disable this one for a bit. Okay, now let me also add another JavaScript element. Oops. All right. So how do I call this? Okay. Right. Okay, so my function is called set focus. Okay, not actions dot set focus. I don't want it to be an action, just want it to be this. All right, so like I said, we cannot directly pass the ID. Again, I'm gonna add an input parameter. All right, I'm gonna call it input ID. And if you remember, the function that we have defined there requires an argument, and my argument will be the ID right here. And please notice that I'm not putting it up in single quotes as we would typically do in a JavaScript code, because that's not required here. Okay. All right. Now, all right. So again, it would more or less work the same way. I'm going to define my input ID here as well. So what I've done here is I've simply called the function that I had defined within my script. I'm simply calling it here again. Now, one of the reasons why you would want to do it is because let's say we have a function that we will be using throughout the application or throughout the module at least, right? So it would make sense to write it once and be able to call it again and again. For example, a function like this is something that we might need, as accessibility practices as well. By default, the focus in fact should be on the first input of the screen when we first enter that screen. So this function is something that we would need throughout the application. So it would make sense to define it within the scripts folder, all right, and use it. In fact, call it wherever we require. Now, I can go ahead and publish it and show you. The result would be the same, but just for the sake of understanding, let's just do it. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my screen. Okay. Something went wrong. Okay, let me check. Calling it. I'm calling it here. Anyway, let's come back to it. We'll come back to it. Okay. Now, okay, the next thing I wanted to discuss is, let's see here. Okay. Just a second, everyone. Okay. All right. What I want to do next is, let's see, on this screen, I'm gonna add a button. Okay.
Kriti, please share your screen.
Sorry, someone said something?
Yeah, your screen is not visible.
Okay. This is not my day. All right. Okay. We add a button. We just call it interval. That is not how you spell it. Nice. Okay. Now I want to define a function here. Instead of interval on click, I'm going to call it. If you're wondering what exactly I'm up to, actually let us leave it as that, leave it as such. It will make sense in a bit. Okay. All right. Now what I want to do here is I'm going to call an asynchronous piece of code. Okay. To show you how exactly we can work with output parameters within a JavaScript element. So I'm going to create an output parameter, and this output parameter will simply pass the ID. In fact, it will pass the result of calling a function. Okay, let me call it object. All right, and the value of this object will be what we get after calling this function. Okay, my function is called set interval, and let me just quickly define it. This is my function body. Now what I want to do is I want to call a client action within this function, which will then give me an ID, and this ID will then be passed on from this JavaScript element back to the client action. Okay. Before that, I'm going to create a client action. Let me just call it, I don't know, a client action. Okay. Now, I'm going to call this client action. And this client action, I simply want to show a message. Okay. I just want to, a message would be, say, button is clicked or something. Okay. Now let me go back to my interval on click. Okay. And what am I going to call here? I'm simply going to call the action. And if you notice, I can see the action, the client action within the scope of this element. Okay. Just going to go ahead and click on it. Now our action is being called. And the set interval function, by the way, can someone help me understand how exactly that works? Have you seen this function before?
Yes, yes. Whatever the time intervals are given, it will be act according to that. It will be
Absolutely.
frequently called the gap intervals, what we mentioned.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So another argument that so the set interval function accepts two arguments. The first one would be the function itself that we want to call, and the second argument or the second parameter would be the time in milliseconds after which I want this function to trigger. Okay, so this is an example of asynchronous function. Let's say I want this to trigger after 2000 milliseconds, which is basically 2 seconds. Now what happens is this interval function will call this function. It will run this function here, but after 2 milliseconds, after 2 seconds. All right. So this is a simple line of code. Well, 3 lines of code. I'm simply and this the result of this function. So set interval function returns an ID, and that ID will then be stored within this output parameter. Okay. Now, why exactly am I doing this? Because I want to help you understand how exactly I can pass any value from within the JavaScript element to outside the scope of this element, right? Because as we can see, we don't really have any way by which we can pass it directly, and because the scope is limited to to this element itself. So the way that we do it is we pass the value through the help of an output parameter. Okay. We just call it, let's change the type here to object. Okay. Now I have the value. Just gonna set I need a local variable here in which I'll store the value from the output parameter that I've obtained. Okay. The value here would be should get the value out of this. Let me see if I can enter it manually. Nope.
Kriti, do one thing. Just go to the assignment. Yeah, and
Yeah, it should be the type here should be object. Thank you. Yes. All right. There you go. Okay. So what I've done is we have created a button here, this interval button, which will then call a JavaScript object. And within this JavaScript object, I'm calling another client action here. And this client action will simply run after a time interval of 2 seconds. All right. Now, okay, let me just publish it. Okay. Now, where's my screen? Gonna refresh. Get rid of this. All right. When I hit this, let's wait for 2 seconds, and I can see my message is displayed, right? But the message keeps displaying. And the reason for that is this is a reactive application, right? So the page will not load again and again. If I reload this page, this function will stop running and this message will go away. But because this is a reactive application and the elements are rendered as and when they are called for, as and when they are required, the page itself will not run again, and that's why the function itself will not end unless we specifically write a piece of code for it to end. Okay, it will keep running. And any suggestions on how we can do it? There is a particular screen event that we can use to clean our DOM. So we have on ready where we can where we can write code for DOM manipulation. There is another event where we can write code to clean DOM. Any such code, the piece of code that we write. Yeah, right. Dhananjay, you're saying something?
Is it on destroy when
On
we
this.
move from one screen to another screen?
Absolutely, yes, that is absolutely correct. So before we move to the next screen, we should call that function, because again, even if we move from one screen to another screen, right? Let me go back. Just gonna have to get rid of this. I'm gonna hit this button, wait 2 seconds, and you can see even if I move to dashboard, this message still won't. I mean, we have to write a code to clean the DOM basically. Okay. Now, how do we do that? I'm gonna create first of all the on destroy event. Okay, and within this on destroy, before that, let me just get rid of where's my on ready. All right, I'm gonna add my JavaScript again to clean the DOM. Okay, so the function that we had used previously was set interval, and this one would be called clear interval. All right, again, what we want to do is the ID that we had received, right? This object here, um, and the ID that was passed by clear interval, we're going to use that ID to create this clear interval function and use this ID to call off that function. Okay, so I need the value that has been passed on, that is stored in this object here. Okay, so for that I'm going to create an input parameter. The purpose is again the same. It will be of type object. Now, what do exactly do I want to? This clear interval method or function will again take as argument. It will take the ID that has been created by set parameter. Just going to call it here, and as simple as that. All right. Now, when I close this again, I have to pass the value of into this input parameter because it is mandatory, and that ID would in fact be this local variable. All right, because I've already stored the value in this local variable, I can go ahead and pass it here. All right. Now, let me just publish. Go back to my screen. All right. So yeah, click. Nope. Doesn't quite work. Wait, let me check. Did anyone notice what we did wrong, or what I did wrong? I can figure it out as well. All right. So here we're simply passing the value.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Instead of this, we cannot use the close feedback message.
We can try that.
Yeah.
Close feedback
Means
message.
it's means a suggestion. I cannot use that, but I need your suggestion. Instead of this, we can use close feedback message
Okay,
after
and
two
we're
seconds.
right after. So, like, how do you suggest? Where do you suggest we define that?
Means when your second client action is run after 2 seconds, we can close that feedback message.
Okay, let's try that. So, are you saying within this interval on click in here?
Yes, where the feedback message is triggered.
Okay, on the second client action. Okay.
Uh, so after the here we can close that feedback message after 2 seconds.
So the feedback
While
message itself, you want to call it asynchronously after 2 seconds.
yeah,
So
means
we'll have to clear that. Again, we'll have to clear that. If we call another set interval function here, we'll have to clear that as well,
yeah,
right? So
yeah,
we have to. I mean, that just keep creating such set interval functions. So instead of that, let's
hmm,
just. It would make more sense to clear the functions, the asynchronous function that we have already created.
hmm,
Yeah. Now, about it on destroy, right? Just want
So
to check.
Kriti, instead of like setting the data type as object,
Hmm?
can't we use the data type as text
As
for the
text.
local variable? Yeah.
Okay. For local variable, it has to be the same as the one we have used here in the
Right. So
set interval.
yeah. So in the interval also we can use it as a text.
All right. For that, let me just quickly check. This is a very good question, Shubham. Let me check something real quick because I think the ID that it returns is in fact an object. So if it returns an object, it has to be saved as an object, right? Let me quickly check that. So it can be a text or ID as well. That shouldn't be a problem. For that, let me go back to interval on click. So if I change it to integer, or because it simply returns an ID, so that could also be integer. Now this should also be text, and what else? So should this. All right, let's see. Okay, let's go back to the screen. We'll wait 2 seconds. Here is. Nope, there's something we have missed.
But
Yes.
Kriti, on this try will work once you move another screen.
Oh, yes. I have to move to another screen, and then it is when it goes away. Yes, you're right. Thank you. That is how on destroy works. As you can notice, I'm a little rusty. Okay. Yeah. So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna move ahead now. Any questions here, people? Arshad Raza says feedback. हाँ तो यहाँ पे we can define it feedback message dot close feedback. Okay.
Yeah, and also Vipin asked a question, Kriti, can we pass, like, how to pass list type data in JavaScript?
Um. Okay. Why do you want to do that? Is my question first, because
Like suppose I want to pass two list data and compare the unique value. Like
yeah,
suppose
but we can do that with with the list with actions that we have in our systems as well, right?
My suggestion is we can serialize this list and we can pass as a JSON, and there we convert into using a JSON pass. We can iterate through the for each loop.
Yeah, but like, I mean, we can do that. That will just that's simply a JavaScript code. We can do that. But again, my question is, do we need to do it? If it's just managing the list itself, then we have, we can simply use the functions that we have, actions, client actions that we have already, right? If there's anything specific that you have realized that we can't do it throughout systems, because it'll just add another, it's sort of an overhead managing the JSON data as well. If there's a requirement, then we can definitely do it.
yeah, suppose I will do that with the help of JavaScript. So how I can achieve that? That's my question.
That is a JavaScript specific question, and I can send you some documents on it, right? So JavaScript works the same way in our systems as it works typically. Okay, so the list itself, like I'm not sure who pointed it out, it will simply be a JSON. It simply be a JSON that will be passing um, through JavaScript. Okay,
Okay.
and all right. There you go. Tangam has already answered your question. You can serialize it. See? Serializing again. You're using the JSON serialize client action, right? Okay. On destroy JS element, can we use this clear interval function? We're calling. So you want to call clear interval after 3 seconds. It could work in theory. Okay, I'll try this out, Arshad, and I'll let you know if this works. Okay, and if you want, I mean, you can do it yourself. You can give this a try. It's simply a function we're calling. I'll try this out and let you know.
Yeah, sure, Kriti. Yeah.
Hello, Kirti.
Yeah.
Can we add arrow functions in JavaScript
Arrow. Oh God, are you talking about like the
in the traditional
oh,
coding?
arrow
Yes. Can
functions?
we
All
add
right.
arrow functions
That is
in?
ES6, right?
Yes.
ES6, I
Huh.
think, would be supported. Mm, I mean, the best way, for, in my experience, would be to simply use jQuery because it is very well optimized within our systems. But sure, I mean, AS6 is also supported as far as I know. I haven't tried, but I think it should work.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, you said arrow, and I went to like pointers and C++ for some reason. Okay, and what else? All right, now going back to the presentation, there is just a few more slides that I wanted to cover. So the best practice, there are a few best practices when we are working with a custom JavaScript code, as with any custom code in our systems, right? Even when we write custom CSS, there are a few best practices that we should follow. Now, the first one is so what we did, right? We defined libraries within the script folder. So when these libraries are needed, um, we should upload them within the script folder and then use them when the elements that require it, that wherever they are necessary, where they were required. Okay, instead of writing the whole line of code, like huge lines of code within JavaScript element itself, whenever we are importing libraries, we should use it within the scripts folder. Okay, the second one we also already discussed, why shouldn't we use the IDs of elements within JavaScript code, because a, it is generated dynamically, and also it keeps changing within the context. As a context, for example, let's say we have a block, and in the block we have defined some ID for, let's say, for an input element. So the ID that is generated for the let's and that block is being used in multiple screens. Okay, so the ID that is generated for one screen would be different than the ID generated in another screen. And if we use a hard coded value for it, that could be a challenge to manage the code later. Okay, and also the same reason for not binding JavaScript to the CSS classes. Okay, because again, classes, um, instead of what this means is, get element by class name. Again, is not a very good method to use. Instead of that, we can simply use the ID and pass the ID as input parameters. Okay, and so to make sure that we use JavaScript carefully whenever we are using that within lifecycle events. Okay, um, as for example, on ready, when JavaScript, for example, or for manipulating DOM, on ready is the event that we should go for. Okay, when we write custom JavaScript for DOM manipulation, we should always use on ready event. Okay, because only that is when we know that DOM is in fact available. If we go ahead and use it on initialize, it will not work because the DOM still is being built at that point, right? And when we are creating objects at a window, at document level or at a window level, we should always use on destroy to clear those, as we already saw. Otherwise they will continue to exist because these are single page applications, reactive applications, and even if we move to another screen, the function keeps running. All right, and also lastly, and whenever we write custom JavaScript code, there's a practice of using a lot of console.logs to test our code, which is absolutely fine. But we should always make sure to, either comment it out or just get rid of it altogether. And finally, the order when we use custom JavaScript, right? When we are using when we are uploading the files, we can do it in different ways. We can either do it like we discussed on module, on the block, or on the screen, and this will also have an impact on the order in which these files would load. Okay, so you can see similar to CSS files, that custom CSS that we work with. Um, the order that this will work is, first it will take the CSS JavaScript at module level, and then the one that is specific to a block. This is the order of priority, the order in which the JavaScript file would load on the application. All right, and finally would be the page level JavaScript. Okay, and this was, yeah, I can see some comments here. Yes, we can also use set timeout. That is correct. All right, so this is a quick introduction to how we can work with JavaScript on our systems. We can, if you have any questions, feel free to, even after the session, you can find me on LinkedIn. Just look up Kriti Tiwari. I guess you should. I think you should have pretty a lot of many mutual connects. So I should be easy to find. You can reach out to me, send me a message, or if you need more advanced sessions, we can work something out as well. Just let Neha or Shubham know. And I hope you learned something today. And you can always reach out to me for more questions. Right. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Kriti. Thank you for the session. Thank you for joining the session also. So yeah, before starting the quiz part, guys, do you have any more questions? You can unmute yourself and ask, or you can also put those into the chat as well. Okay, then let's head to the quiz part. Neha, over to you for quizzes.
Okay. Thank you, Shubham. Okay, guys. So, regarding quiz, this is a masterclass series, and in our first masterclass session, whoever joined, they know we've conducted a quiz there. We had some winners from that masterclass session. Now, in this session, also, I'm going to share a link with you for the quiz. The thing is, all these masterclass sessions, at the end of the masterclass, when we'll have the last session of the masterclass, only then the quiz winners will have common winners for every masterclass. So that for all the masterclass sessions, so that here the requirement is you need to attend all the masterclass sessions. Okay, and you need to be present in all the sessions. You need to be if you are good in all the sessions, plus you if you score good in the final assessment, or in all the quiz and all the final assessment. It's not like that you need to score, you have scored in this and it will not be counted. This will also be counted, but you have to be good in all the sessions and at the end of the assessment also, but the reward will be given at the end of the masterclass. That's the point that I wanted to highlight. The masterclass series, you will get a hamper, okay, and not just one hamper. We are going to distribute as much as 10 hampers, okay. So that 10 hamper, in that 10 hamper, you will get um, a voucher. Okay, that hamper will also have a voucher, OutSystems voucher in it, and plus it will have some goodies, OutSystem goodies. Okay, so we'll have as much as 10. We can have as much as 10 winners. So it's something that is very very good, right? That is very exciting, worth fighting for, right? Yeah, so all the best, guys. I'm going to share the link of the quiz here. Give me a minute. Mm, You'll find the link in the chat, guys. I want all of you. This is uh, a form link. Just fill your name and try to give answers. At the end, you can see your scores as well. Let me know whenever you are done. I can see responses coming in. Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much, guys, for filling up and letting me know that you have filled the forms. You have filled the quiz. Waiting for everyone to finish. Okay. Okay, I can see most of you have responded. So you've completed. Just 5 more minutes. Okay, just 3 more minutes. And okay, okay. I think everything is done. Everyone has responded. Okay, so the thing is, I'm going to announce the winners of this quiz in the next masterclass series. Okay, as this one is the virtual one, and only if you, like I said, this will be beneficial for you, as you know, you'll gain some knowledge about front end. Plus, to win that hamper, I want every, the you should be present in every session. So the winners of this, to know the winners of this quiz, we'll announce the winners in the next session. Okay, when we start the next session. At the start of our next masterclass series, I'm going to announce the winners of this session. Okay. So yeah, I'll to know the winners, please join the next session. Okay, the next session will be in next month. It will be again a virtual session, and it will be next month. Any questions, guys? Anything you want to discuss, tell, ask? Okay. Okay. So we are ahead of time. Actually, we have 10 more minutes. If anything you want to discuss, floor is open, we can discuss. Otherwise, the agenda is done, right? We have completed the technical session, we have completed the quiz. So, yeah, uh, enjoy the weekend, right? Thank you so much for joining. If you don't have anything, we are done for the session. Thank you so much. Any time limit to complete the quiz? You need to complete before the session ends, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, everyone. Before 12:30.